Ann Arbor's Talk Station, 1290 WLBY, and the Lucy Ann Lance Show. Damian on Design with Damian Farrell from Damian Farrell Design Group. We take a look at how design can impact our lives in so many different ways, from the products we use to the homes we live in. And today we're going to talk about designing downtown Ann Arbor, with Susan Pollay, who's the head of the Downtown Development Authority. Nice to have you with us again.
Thank you so much.
Damian, as an architect, you have to deal with the city on a regular basis for projects that you do. And you've seen the changes we've had just in the last few years here.
It's been extraordinary. The whole process we've been through of reevaluating our zoning, the overlay zonings. We've sadly had this terrible economy to deal with, but I think we're seeing something coming out of that now. I see cranes back downtown, which is a nice sign. But you know, my bright spot in doing all this is that when it gets dark during this process, there's always Susan Pollay.
I'm a huge Susan fan because she's just one of those people that is always cheerful, always sees the bright side of things. And you've had some big challenges here in Ann Arbor over the last few years, and you take criticism really well. And if you could explain to people, and we've talked with you about this before, but maybe point to some of the things that the DDA has been responsible for that has helped to have an impact to draw people to downtown and to draw new business to downtown.
Yeah, good question.
Give some idea of what that might be.
Well, a good way to begin it is to say that right now the Michigan Municipal League, which is an organization that represents the cities, townships, villages, and so forth in Michigan, has two phraseologies that I think describe what we've been doing pretty well. And the first is to try to help communities to become development ready. And that speaks to infrastructure, having the pieces in place so that when a developer is looking to put their dollars in and invest in a community, the community's ready for them. And so we've done that in the form of having a parking system that's in good shape, that has sufficient parking. We've done that with alley improvements, water mains, sanitary mains, working with DTE to make sure there's electrical capacity. So being development ready is a big piece of what we do. In many ways, our community may not see that. They will assume there's water when you turn on the tap. They're going to assume that there's a parking space when you get there. But with development happening, a good example about water, we have the infrastructure designed for the city we have. You don't over-design it. So as we're building taller, and there's fire suppression systems, you need more water. You need a great deal more fire hydrants and so forth, because we've got us more active in more locations. The DDA is ahead of this, putting in the infrastructure so that development can take place. And the other phraseology that the Michigan Municipal League describes is sense of place, enhancing that sense of place. So the other place where I think our community would have seen our work, those wonderful walkable sidewalks downtown didn't just happen. Those trees, the brick, the benches,
Those historic markers.
The elements that we enjoy on a downtown walking experience, the DDA's had its fingerprints on just about every single sidewalk downtown, including, for instance, this summer. It's not just the big streetscapes, it's the little things like going out there this summer and fixing the trip hazards. We're enjoying ourselves strolling down a sidewalk, but the sidewalk flags can heave, the bricks can wander. We have utility companies in jackhammering and then maybe leaving some debris behind them.
It's all that grinding that we see now on the sidewalks.
You see us, we're following behind it. Before we make the big investment in a streetscape, we're going in and doing maintenance. The pedestrian scale lighting, all of the elements that we kind of enjoy in the downtown, the twinkle lights during the holiday period, that's DDA. And again, it's about sense of place and being development ready.
So,
As Ann Arbor has done this, and we are now drawing in more people than ever to our downtown. The restaurant scene is booming. We have so many theater groups and that sort of thing going on. It seems to me that we haven't kept up with our roads. Our roads have become so clogged with traffic now because, I mean, everywhere around Ann Arbor. And I don't know what to do about that.
Well, there's a place where the DDA is playing a role as well. So a key element in our thinking is we focus on the person. We want the person downtown, but we don't necessarily want their car, we want them. So though we're famous for managing the parking system, a great deal of our work over the last 15 years has been in partnership with ATA in enhancing the transit options, particularly for commuters. Because if the employees can get to work using a bus or sharing a ride together in a van pool, that's at least one more parking space that's available for you, the customer, but that's at least 20 more feet of roadway that's not congested by each individual car. We've done a remarkable job, I think, with our Go Pass, which we subsidize about 95% of it. We have something like 7,000 employees participating in that program, and something close to 250,000 rides a year are now being taken on the bus that used to be driving alone
Well, and
trips.
you can see it, because if you go past the lots now, and they've been done very nicely. I think what happened out at Plymouth Road, it's a beautiful example.
Beautiful.
The way it's landscaped, and they
Absolutely.
are full.
And a good measure of that is thanks to ATA. They've done a really good job raising their game in terms of service
Yeah.
when people need it. Some of our routes were so busy that people were standing room only, and ATA has responded by adding more buses to those routes.
Well, now we're supposed to say the ride, although
The ride.
no one really said that before,
The
but they want to go
ride.
by the ride because now they're the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority, right?
And it's exactly it. And so the pieces of the puzzle is to find more ways for people to get to where they need to go and not always just having to rely on a car. And so you'll see things like we have Air Ride downtown. You can get to the airport without a car.
Right, I've seen
We've got
that too,
Zip
yeah.
Car. If you've come downtown and you need to run out to a meeting, we participate with them so that you can actually rent a car by the hour, get to your meeting and back, but you didn't actually have to park a car, didn't have
Yeah.
to bring it. A lot of emphasis on bikes. I know that's maybe for a more youthful or healthful group of people, but the more we can accommodate bikes in the downtown, again, those are cars off the street, which helps our congestion. And to ATA, the ride's credit, they're working to build a very robust countywide, especially in the urban area, transit plan. They've been putting the pieces together. So it enables us to build our residences, build new offices, but not all of that's gonna bring cars and congestion. We can find ways to get to where we need to go in partnership by giving people options. And people will always choose an option that makes their lives easier, whether it's because it's cost saving, or maybe it's time saving, or whatever their
Convenience,
issues are.
yeah.
Give them an option, and we're all smart enough to make a choice that's the right one for us.
Can we go back to your opening statement, the phraseology about being development ready?
Yeah.
How do we handle the psychology of the community being development ready? Because that's a whole different thing, right?
is,
I mean,
and
we've
I
seen
understand that,
those
yeah.
hurdles, right?
And maybe an example that's not necessarily in the downtown, so maybe will seem a little less maybe controversial. I live on the west side of Ann Arbor, and over the course of about 3 years, maybe 4, the city did a very thoughtful and I think very impactful improvement along Maple Road Stadium. Beautiful pedestrian
True.
scale lighting, beautiful, mid-street pedestrian crossing points. But what we don't see underground is enhanced, expanded water mains, expanded sanitary mains. They met with DTE before they did this to make sure DTE was ready. So that was an effort on the part of the city in an area outside downtown to be development ready. No matter what happens on Stadium, they have anticipated by trying to make sure the systems are in place. Again, that's not controversial. I don't know that many would say, oh, that was a waste of money, because it looks beautiful. I think Stadium functions better. There are bike lanes, many more accommodations for pedestrians, feels attractive for the businesses there. I think we're seeing many new businesses setting up shop on Stadium.
Oh, that's true.
As a
true.
result of that development. The city did its part to be development ready on Stadium Boulevard.
What else can be done in downtown Ann Arbor to enhance that experience as well in the way of design? And maybe there's some future projects coming up, but other changes that downtowns are going through, Ann Arbor in particular, to bring in more people.
Well, part of what's been going on as we're talking has been the community's engagement around what kind of downtown we want, and having at the forefront our values of walkability, attractive, authentic, vibrant. The zoning has to reflect that. A few years ago, we did not have, as a small example, buildings right up against the sidewalk. They were set back. The vibrancy of downtown, you want that immediacy. It's actually a good thing to have people rubbing right against each other. We snoop in windows. You don't
Yeah.
want windows set back from a sidewalk. You want to snoop in
Oh,
and
that's
see
true.
what's there.
Yeah.
And so downtown becomes a series of rooms. You're poking your nose in this room. Oh, what's going on there? To the next room. Suddenly you've found that you've walked from campus to Main Street because you've been snooping the whole way. That kind of design change has been very subtle, again, bringing buildings to the sidewalk. We're much more clear around the need for transparency. No more blank walls. If you look at the Federal Building on 4th Avenue where the buses station, it's a blank wall. It's
horrible.
brick. It's horrible. The Ameritech
Yeah.
Building,
Yeah.
same thing. The buildings, though, that the city has been approving, the development community is hearing, we need transparency, windows, doors, places where the building is permeable on the first floor, both through sight lines, but also doors have people entering and exiting. Much more thoughtfulness about creating a connection between the building, as beautiful as it is, and the sidewalk. And I'm going to talk to an architect here. When you design buildings, I'm sure many of your clients are thinking only of their building.
Yeah,
And in Ann Arbor, what we've been saying as a community is, beautiful building, now Damian, how does it connect to the sidewalk?
yeah.
And that's something I think in particular Ann Arbor does a good job with. Our community members speak to that very
Yeah, they
well.
do.
And that's why we have these design guidelines, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's overlay. And things like canopies and so on at the first or second floor level that
Absolutely.
give some shade, even if it's a psychological shade or a
And
little bit
it's
brief.
connecting you.
But it's
Yeah.
creating a human scale as well, and then setbacks at the fourth floor, things. Yeah, what sits in the guidelines is very sound. And I find it very easy to design with. I think some people were afraid that it was going to be restrictive. But I think sometimes you need those restrictions bring out the better design. And you can handle those things with contemporary design or traditional design.